Hello everyone, welcome to essentially, well, we started at zero because we are developers, so day 3 of my trip to New York City for DroidCon. Today we are heading home. It is about 4:30 in the morning, which normally I'd say is way too early. However, I haven't really shifted off UK time. Like, I managed to shift enough that I was getting enough sleep, but I actually am feeling quite awake, so it's perfectly fine. It's cool. We're going to head down to the airport, down to JFK, and we are going to go catch our plane, basically. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some good footage. I hope you enjoy this vlog as we travel on back to home in London. And of course, as always, if you do enjoy it, please do hit that like button and subscribe. We're going to be continuing all these fun travel vlogs and event vlogs and all that sort of stuff throughout this year. So I really hope you enjoy this content. Thank you very much, and let's get going.
Okay, so obviously at this time in the morning, I got a taxi. The hotel was actually very nice. I went downstairs, I checked out, and they called a taxi for me who was here within 5 minutes. It was very smooth, which is always nice when it's this early in the morning. I would have previously used Ubers for this kind of a journey, but honestly, they've been nothing but trouble. It's often that, especially when you're going to somewhere like an airport, they'll just cancel on you. They won't come and pick you up, and you can spend a lot of time waiting around. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to waste time. I wanted to get to the airport with plenty of time to make sure I wasn't going to miss my flight. That would have not been good. So, jumped in a New York yellow taxi and headed for the airport. Got some pretty nice shots along the way. Obviously, there was a lot of glare, unfortunately, from the TV screen that's in these cabs, which is so frustrating because it plays the same 5 minutes of video on loop, and it's just an advert, basically. So there's that. But otherwise, we got some really good shots. So I'm going to leave you with these, and I will see you when we get to the airport. Clearly, I wasn't the only one that wanted to get to the airport with plenty of time. Check-in wasn't actually open yet, and there was quite a queue. But it didn't take long. We got through check-in, and actually, I got swept away and taken through the first-class check-in, which was very fancy and felt nice. It was just because they were using it for overflow. But what I did manage to do is talk to the lovely lady on the counter, and she was able to move my seat from a middle seat to an aisle seat by the window as well. Would mean I'd have to stretch back to get any video, but it was way better than a middle seat, and she was very lovely about it. It was completely free. I'd actually tried to pay previously the night before when I was checking in to get an upgrade to a aisle seat or a window seat, and the app didn't work. It just kept redirecting me back home. It was very frustrating. It was only sort of £20 to do the upgrade. I was willing to do it, but when I spoke to her at the desk, they said, "Yep, no worries," and did that for me. So that was really cool. So went through security very quickly because we went through the first class security line, and ended up in the terminal, which is a very strange place. So this is Terminal 7, which is British Airways' terminal, and it was deserted. Now granted, it was sort of 5:45 in the morning, so it was very early, but there was very little open. And looking at the flight boards, there were very few flights at all today, and most of them weren't British Airways. This is definitely being used as overflow because British Airways have cancelled a lot of their flights. They've condensed it down. So whereas previously they were probably doing 3, 4, 5 flights from Heathrow to JFK alone, they're not anymore. And that doesn't include, they probably were doing flights from Gatwick and Stansted as well. I don't know for sure, but they were definitely doing a lot of flights, and now they're not. So you have this very deserted, very quiet, very eerie terminal. Complete contrast to Heathrow Terminal 5. And in a way, it was kind of nice. It was nice to not feel rushed. It was nice to have a slow morning and kind of just have a wander around. And there was, a few things open, but most things weren't open yet. Again, understandable. It wasn't even 6 a.m. yet, so it makes sense for me that was the case. But we had a walk round and headed towards our kind of gate area. We were at one end of the terminal. I think that was the other weird thing, was it was kind of a long stretched out terminal with gates dotted along, and we were right at one end, so you kind of had to go past everything. And things did start to open up after 6. The duty free started to open, and some things were coming to life, but still wasn't really anything to write home about. Definitely wouldn't recommend coming here hours and hours and hours ahead of your flight. Check it from check-in to through security and into the gate really didn't take very long at all. And even in the kind of normal line, it seemed like it was pretty straightforward and kind of fine, to be honest. I wouldn't be hurrying to get here more than a couple of hours ahead of your flight. And the one thing that was open, the most important thing, of course, there was Dunkin'. So we made sure to head over and get a Dunkin'. But as you can see from the board, there really wasn't many flights going on at all. But we got our overly sugary coffee adjacent drink and had a rest in the sort of waiting area. But before too long, it was time to start boarding. And I seem to have just been very unlucky with the very long corridors this trip, because again, it was a long waiting process to get to the Sky Bridge to then board. But there was one thing which was just a little bit creepy, and that was this pitch black corridor, which was sort of boarded off, and obviously was there for, maybe it was for the arrivals side of it, and you would go down there for arrivals. But it was pretty creepy walking past this corridor where you couldn't actually see the end, and the gentleman in front of me even took a photo as well, because yeah, it was weird. It was, considering how quiet everything was, it was just a bit creepy, to be honest. But anyway, it was time to get boarded, and we're flying on another 777 today. This one was much older than the one we flew out on, so I wasn't quite sure what we were going to be in for. And what I did notice straight away was that they had updated the business class. I am assuming they'd done this across their whole kind of all their planes, because it was the same seating in business class, and it did, as always, look very comfortable and would be very nice to travel in. But of course, not the case for us today. Today we were heading into the back for economy. And yeah, the one thing that was different was that this cabin was much smaller compared to the flight on the way out. The flight on the way out had a lot more business class seats. This one was much smaller, and then we went into quite a large premium economy. So obviously BA know their clientele, they know the kind of seats people are picking on different flights, and they've kind of set it up accordingly. But it did look like the premium economy hadn't been updated, and this was still the older version of the premium economy. But of course, as I said, we were heading all the way back into economy. I was lucky with getting the exit row seat, but we did have to go all the way back. I had a quick look at the premium economy seats in a little bit more detail, but yeah, it definitely looked like they hadn't updated them, which was interesting. Maybe it was just they hadn't updated the entertainment system and the seat itself has been updated. I'm not sure. Comment down below if you know. I haven't really done much travel until this year, really, because before I started in developer relations, I was just a software engineer, and I think I maybe did one trip with that job, which was a big one, to South Africa. But before that, I haven't been very familiar with planes in general, so it's been a lot of fun kind of learning about this stuff, seeing the different kind of setups that, even though it's necessarily the same plane, if this plane has been produced for so long, you're going to have different layouts, different types of seats, and all that sort of fun stuff, which is pretty cool. But we finally got moving again, and we were into our area, and we were going to have the seat on the left there by the window, which was perfect for me, really. It meant that we were actually going to get some takeoff shots, which was something I sorely missed on the flight out. So before too long, it was time to push back and head off back home to London. Of course, we do have full takeoff and landing videos on the channel. I'll link those down below. Please do go check them out. I think they were pretty fun. But having said that, I shall leave you with some shots of the taxiing and takeoff, and I'll see you in a moment. And now we're up in the air. It's time to kind of show off the seat a little bit. It's certainly fair to say we had all the legroom we could ever need. However, because of how the cabin slopes, you actually don't get so much space to the right of you, and the window is kind of just behind you as well. So if you're looking for a good view, it's not perfect. But given the chance, as soon as the seatbelt lights came on, we jumped out of our seat and headed for the toilet to do a little bit of a review. This one, I think, was actually possibly better than the flight out, which is funny because this plane is a good 20 years older, but it was in a good condition. It was well looked after. It was still early in the flight, don't get me wrong. There wasn't actually kind of enough time for people to ruin it, but it was good. I was impressed. And then it was time to settle into the flight and have a look at the in-flight entertainment system. This definitely was the older version that BA have, which was quite unresponsive. And of course, being an exit row seat, you do have the fold-out screen instead, which I don't really like. I think it's a weird angle to watch. And also, if you put any pressure on the screen, the screen started to fall backwards. It wasn't very well held up, and several times I had to kind of push it back up. But we did have a flight map, and we were just kind of flying over Boston when we got to this point. But it was so unresponsive. It was kind of, you definitely just wanted to watch some movies on this. You didn't want to have to do much else. I mean, you know, that is what it is, really. I wouldn't have played any of the games. But as always, there was a pretty good selection of content. I really have to say that British Airways do very good at this. They have a great range of movies, I would say, suiting everyone, from comedies, sci-fi, horror, drama, everything you might want. Some quite new films as well, as far as I could tell. And also some good TV series where they have the full series and not just 3 random episodes. So I was impressed, and it certainly made the kind of slightly cramped seat much easier. About maybe an hour and a half into the flight, the main meal was served, which was a full English breakfast. It wasn't actually that bad. I quite enjoyed the bacon and sausage, was very good. And that was really it. For the rest of the flight, I just kind of settled in and watched some films. I think I've now exhausted British Airways' films at this point across the 4 flights that I've taken in August. But that's fine. We got some good shots kind of heading over Canada and heading out towards the Atlantic Ocean and making our way across to London. And it wasn't too long, and we were getting ready for our descent over the UK. Of course, by the time we got to the UK, it was incredibly grey and cloudy outside. Why wouldn't it be? We were over the UK. And we kind of took an interesting route, actually. We came down over the south coast, sort of looking out over the channel, and then came up under London and spun round before descending into Heathrow. And of course, we do have a full descent and landing video as well, so please do go check that out. Again, it will be linked down below. But otherwise, I will leave you with some footage, and I'll see you when we've landed. And we've landed. We're back in the UK. Again, passport control, super quick, thanks to that dual citizenship that always makes it so easy. And I'm really very, lucky to have and kind of like to make use of it wherever I can. Anyway, we've got through security. We hadn't checked a bag, so again, we kind of just walked straight on through and we headed for the train to get us back to London. I did try and take some footage on the train, but because it was dark at this point, it was in the evening, I didn't get any decent footage, unfortunately. But this is probably something I haven't said through this video, and yeah, we left JFK early in the morning and we got to London in the evening, which is quite unusual. Normally, flights from the US to the UK are overnight. It's why I picked this flight, because personally I hate overnight flights. You never get any sleep anyway, and then you're expected to spend all of the next day awake, otherwise it messes up with your jet lag. So this is just much easier. Travel during the day, you get home in the evening, and you can come home, have maybe some dinner, and just go to bed. And the next day you're perfectly fine. So if you saw my travelling out video, we're basically doing the reverse. We got the Heathrow Express into Paddington, and then from there we got a taxi back to the house. And it was that simple. It was easy, it was convenient. It is the best way to travel if you need to get into London. Take the Heathrow Express, unless of course you are a larger family, or looking to take a more cost-effective approach. The underground is definitely a good option there as well. I would really steer clear of a taxi from Heathrow, unless you have a lot of luggage, I guess, and are a bigger family. So it makes sense compared to 5 tickets on a train. And we are back home. Another successful trip. I think the event went incredibly well. So I do want to take this opportunity again to thank all the organisers, everyone that came along, and just everyone that made DroidCon New York something special. It was really great. It was my first DroidCon New York, and it's definitely an event I'm going to remember. So thank you very much to everyone that made it possible. And that's it. That's a wrap. We are done with another travel vlog, another trip. Thank you very much for watching. It shouldn't be long after this video is out that we will actually be starting our DroidCon London trip. And that'll actually be a little bit of a bigger vlog than it was originally going to be, because I'll have moved out of London by then. Actually, by the time this video is out, I will have moved out of London. So we will be doing a bit of travelling. We'll be taking the train most likely. We might drive. I don't know yet. There's a lot of planning still to be done there. But anyway, I will see you next time with DroidCon London. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have enjoyed this content, please do hit that like button. And please do subscribe. We are kind of trying to keep up the momentum here. We've got events every month, lots of content. I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.